Single mom rescues drowning billionaire at 3 a.m., but will he find her before it's too late? The city was dark, swallowed by an unsettling silence, when in the depths of the night, a scream shattered the stillness. It was a desperate cry echoing across the bay, a call that sent chills down the spine. The waves splashed violently against the rocks, drowning out the faint whispers of the bustling life just a few blocks away. But right here it was pure chaos, the kind that leaves you breathless, holding your heart tight in your chest. And at its center, a life hung by a thread. She was just a single mom, sleepily dragging herself along the boardwalk, hoping for a moment of peace before the chaos of morning set in. Then came the moonlight reflecting off something submerged, a figure, flailing in the icy water. Her heart raced. Instinct kicked in. With a quick glance at the empty street, she lunged forward, propelled by a fear she couldn't name. Was it the chance to be a hero? Or was it something deeper, a longing to save a soul adrift like her own? The water swallowed her whole as she plunged in, the biting cold wrapping around her like a vice. She could hardly breathe, but she fought through the wave that slapped her face, desperate to reach the man. His eyes were wide, panic gripping him, the ocean a dark maw threatening to consume him. But then, as she clasped her fingers around his wrist, she felt the power of his desperation. Their fates were now intertwined beneath the surface. Once ashore, the world snapped back into focus. His tailored suit was soaked, clinging to his frame as he gasped for air. What was a billionaire doing at this hour, half drowned and vulnerable? Her chest tightened at the sight of him, a powerful man who was now reduced to nothing more than a struggling stranger, lying on the gritty ground. Was she really meant to save him, or was this just a twist of fate? The streets were beginning to awaken, with whispers of the rescue trickling through the city like wildfire. Folks peered from their windows, eyebrows raised, murmurs swirling about this single mom who tossed caution aside for a stranger. But who was this man, and what darkness lay behind those glittering eyes that now stared at her in gratitude? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As she backed away, the urgency of the moment swelled. He looked like he had secrets tucked away beneath that drenched exterior, lots of them. What kind of life did he lead? And why had he been out there alone? Every second pulsed with electric tension. Would he just vanish into his world of wealth, or could this odd encounter change everything? And amidst the questions, one demanded answers more than others. Would he remember her when the sun rose? The air buzzed with possibility as she turned to make her way home. The night's events swirling like a storm in her mind. Who would find whom first? The sun hadn't completely broken through the horizon when Erin found herself pacing her small kitchen, the silhouette of the city visible through the blinds. Her heart thudded in her chest like a heavy drum. She replayed the night's events over and over again, a frantic blur of water and gasping breaths. He might have been a stranger before that moment, but now he occupied every corner of her mind. Just as she began to make coffee, her phone buzzed. A notification. Instinctively, she snatched it and felt a chill race down her spine. It was an email, one of those fancy corporate ones. The sender was a name she recognized immediately. Mark Asher. The very man she'd pulled from the depths of the bay last night. Her fingers trembled as she opened the message, breath hitching. "Thank you for saving my life," it began. His bravado slipping away into words that were almost vulnerable. He expressed gratitude and an urgency that made her stomach twist with confusion. "I need to see you," he wrote. What did that even mean? Why would a billionaire want to see her? A million little insecurities bubbled in her chest. Surely he was just looking for a way to repay her, to brush off the whole thing with money or a gift. But in the back of her mind, hope sparked. Maybe it could be something more, something that might change her mundane life. As she stood there, a warmth spread across her cheeks, thoughts disrupted by knocking at her front door. She flinched, glancing at the clock. It was too early for deliveries and too late for trespassers. She opened the door, and standing before her was a woman dressed in a crisp black suit, a clipboard clutched tightly in her hands. "Is this the home of Aaron Bailey?" the woman asked, her expression a mix of stern and curious. Yes. Can I help you?" Jenna Cole, Mr. Asher's assistant. The name was stark and startling, sending a ripple of disbelief through Aaron. "He wishes to arrange a meeting." "Meeting? With me?" Aaron felt her cheeks flush again, her mind racing to process the implications. "But right now," Jenna pressed, her gaze unwavering. "He wants to express his gratitude in person. He says it's urgent." With her heart hammering, Aaron turned back inside, feeling the weight of an unseen hand clutching at her throat. This wasn't how life worked. Wasn't she just a struggling single mom trying to keep her life together? Why did he want to meet her? Aaron swallowed hard, senses tingling with anxiety and anticipation. Jenna stepped further inside, her professional demeanor never wavering. "If you have a moment, he's waiting outside. We can leave right away." Yes, here?" The words tumbled from Aaron's lips in disbelief. She could feel the space around her close in as if the walls were pressing against her chest. "Yes," Jenna replied, unreadable eyes studying Aaron closely. Torn between disbelief and excitement, Aaron glanced at her reflection in the hallway mirror. Is this really happening? What would she even say to him? Before she could answer herself, she felt a sharp nudge of urgency in her gut. As they stepped outside, the crisp morning air hit her like a burst of ice water. She could see his figure in the distance but couldn't quite face the reality of it. The sun was barely peeking out, casting a golden glow around him that felt almost surreal. He caught sight of her and started walking forward, an intense look on his face that made her heart race. What could he possibly want from her? And why was it so important? But before she could spiral into a sea of thoughts, Mark was nearly upon her, eyes locked onto her with an intensity that left her breathless. "I need to explain everything," he began, words tumbling in a rush, his urgency palpable, but before he could finish, a loud screeching sound ripped through the morning quiet, drawing Aaron's attention away. A black SUV had screeched to a halt nearby, its tires spinning on the gravel. Doors flung open and figures in dark suits leaped out, eyes scanning the area like hawks. "Aaron!" Mark's voice cut through like a knife as he stepped in front of her, protective instinct surging. What was happening? Then it hit her what kind of darkness had been haunting this man. She felt the walls of her reality shifting, fear curling up like smoke in her stomach as the mystery deepened. Would they walk away from this moment, or would they be forced into something far more dangerous? As the strangers approached, Aaron braced herself, heart pounding. What awaited her now? The men in dark suits moved with a purpose that made Aaron's skin prickle. They were relentless predators, scanning the surroundings, their eyes cold and calculating. Mark took a step closer to Aaron, his broad frame shielding her as if he could absorb the danger along with the morning light. "Stay behind me," he commanded, voice low but authoritative. His presence was both a comfort and a source of confusion. How did a meeting about gratitude transform into this chaotic moment of impending threat? Aaron's breath hitched as her eyes darted between Mark and the approaching men. There was something unsettling about their demeanor, an air of menace that sent her instincts screaming. One of them, a stocky man with a sharp jaw, spoke first. "Mr. Asher, we need to talk. This is not the time for distractions. What do you want?" Mark's voice was steady, but Aaron could hear the tension coiled in his words. The man took a step forward, brushing a hand through his slick hair, making it shine in the pale light, as if he were the one in charge. "This is a matter of urgency, involving your assets." His gaze flicked towards Aaron, sizing her up with a look that felt invasive. "And her? For God's sake, she's not involved in this," Mark said, his desperation rising. He tightened his jaw, and Aaron could see the muscles in his neck tense as he struggled to maintain his composure. Aaron's heart raced. Her life was simple, filled with grocery shopping, school pickups, and bills. How had she stumbled into something so tangled and dangerous? The thought sent a shivering jolt through her. "Mr. Asher, you must understand this mess is deeper than you think. You have people looking for you," the stocky man replied, his voice like gravel, grating against the tension in the air. Mark's expression shifted, a mix of fury and fear warping his features. "You don't know what you're talking about. How could you let it come to this?" A flutter of panic gripped Erin's chest. What darkness was lurking just beyond the surface of Mark's carefully constructed world? She needed to focus to find clarity. "What do they want from you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet louder than the fear swirling inside her. Mark turned to her, concern etched in his brow. "This is not your fight, Erin." But it felt like it was. An unsettling bond tethered them together now. Though she barely knew him, she wanted to probe deeper, to cut through the chaos with questions. But she knew the urgency mattered more than her curiosity. Suddenly, one of the other men, the taller one with a piercing gaze, pulled a phone from his pocket, glancing at the screen. The atmosphere shifted like electricity crackling before a storm. "We don't have time for this," he snapped. "Let us move." Mark shifted further in front of Erin, eyes burning with intensity. "You're not taking her." The determination in his voice ignited a spark of bravery inside her. But the men weren't backing down. The stocky man reached for his pocket, and Erin's breath stopped. Instinctively, she grabbed Mark's arm, her fingers trembling against the fabric of his shirt. A shot rang out, echoing off the buildings like a thunderclap. Erin flinched, instinctively ducking behind Mark. Fear surged through her body like ice water. Who were these men? What had she gotten herself into? Mark surged forward, and confusion slipped into panic. "We need to get you out of here. Now." He grabbed her hand, pulling her away, urgency propelling them both. "Where?" The word was a breath, a plea. Erin could hardly process the chaos surrounding her, but she followed him blindly, hearing the sound of footsteps stomping behind them. Every heartbeat felt like it could shatter the fragile shell of safety they stood on. "Head toward the alley," Mark shouted, and Erin's heart thundered in response, alive with terror and determination. As they turned the corner just in time, Erin glanced back, catching the men's silhouettes retreating like ghosts onto the main road. The promise of safety felt so close yet so distant, like mirage shimmering in an impossible world. What would happen next? Would they find a way out of this? And deep down, she wondered what truly lay behind this billionaire's web of threats. And how far would they be willing to go to protect their secrets? Mark pulled Erin into the narrow alley, their urgency colliding with the cool reality of the dimly lit space. The air was thick with tension, the stench of refuse and uncertainty swirling around them. He shot her a quick glance, the fire in his eyes revealing a desperate determination. "Keep moving," he urged, his voice steady. Erin's legs felt like lead, her mind racing with questions. What was happening? Who were those men? The piercing sound of boots pounding against the pavement echoed from behind them, dragging her back to the present menace. "Why did they want you?" she managed to ask, her heart drumming in her chest like a war drum, each beat a reminder of how far from normal her life had slipped. Mark hesitated, his jaw tight as if weighing his words. "It's complicated. Just know. It's all about control." Control? The word tasted bitter in her mouth. What could you possibly? "Shoo." He pulled her closer as a figure loomed at the alley entrance. A shadow briefly eclipsed the waning daylight. Erin's pulse quickened, skin prickling with fear. "Are they here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Mark held her gaze, and for a brief moment, there was a quiet understanding between them, two people caught in a storm neither had expected. "We have to keep moving. They'll search every corner until they find me." With a sudden rush, he began to navigate through the maze of dumpsters and crates stacked like a fortress around them. Erin stumbled, trying to match his pace. She felt completely out of her depth. A simple woman suddenly thrust into a world of peril. "Why do they want you?" She pressed again, louder this time, and the tightness in Mark's shoulders flared quick as lightning. "I can't explain now," he snapped, frustration bleeding through his tone. "Just know that I'm not who you think I am. I'm involved in things far over my head." The words hung in the air, a charged confession that sent a shudder racing through her. But as fear settled in, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. "They say it's deeper than I think," she mused aloud, fear and curiosity wrestling in her chest. Without warning, a shout rang out from the entrance to the alley. "Mark, we know you're in there. You can't run forever." The voice was cold, haunting, and filled with contempt. Erin's stomach churned. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but there was nowhere to go. The walls felt like they were closing in. "Behind me." Mark pushed her back against the wall, blocking her with his body. She could feel the heat radiating off him, an odd mix of protection and urgency. The men's footsteps grew louder, reverberating through the alleyway like a death knell. Mark's gaze was fierce, yet Aaron could see the flicker of panic underneath. It was a small reminder that even he didn't have complete control over the looming threat. "What are we going to do?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Mark's eyes darted around, assessing their options. "We need to find a way out," and then, just as suddenly, his face shifted from concern to instant focus. "Wait here." Before she could protest, he shot off like a bullet, disappearing around the side of a building, leaving Aaron facing the barrage of chaos alone. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the racing fears in her mind. Footsteps thundered closer. Her heart raced. Was she really ready for whatever was about to unfold? Questions swirled in the air. Was this her fight now? Would she stand firm with him or choose to run? Just as she prepared to bolt, a sound caught her attention. A vehicle screeching to a halt at the alley's mouth. She peeked around the corner, and what she saw sent an icy chill through her veins. The tall man from before stepped into view, pulling something from his jacket. Her breath caught. Would they take her next? What lay ahead? Would Mark return in time to save her from the secrets that now threatened to engulf her world? Erin's heart drummed in her chest as she watched the tall man brandish a weapon, a sleek silver gun glinting in the dim light. It felt surreal, watching horror unfold in slow motion. Panic coursed through her veins, icy and bitter. Could she run? Could she even scream? The man's eyes scanned the alley, scanning, hunting. His lips curled into a sinister smile, one that sent a cold shiver down her spine. When was Mark coming back? Would he be able to fend off whatever these men wanted? "Mark!" she yelled, and the sound echoed in the alley. The words came out like a spell, desperate and torn. Instinctively, she pressed herself deeper against the damp wall, hoping to blend into the shadows. "Show yourself," the tall man commanded, his voice like a whip crack, sharp and demanding. He stepped further into the alley, boots crunching on shattered glass and debris around him. A shudder ran through Erin. She was a mother far more accustomed to handling tantrums in school plays than this nightmare. She hated this feeling of helplessness creeping over her, gnawing at her spirit. Then she heard it. A rustling sound from the end of the alley. Mark. But no, it was the sound of more footsteps. How many were there? "Simon, I know you're back there." The man stepped toward her, closer, and all Erin could think about was survival. She needed to do something. Fight or flight. Adrenaline kicked in. She had to act fast. Just then, a voice shouted from the entrance again. "Check the car." He might have slipped out. A chill coursed through Erin. That voice sounded too close, too familiar. Her breathing grew shallow as she tried to gauge her surroundings. Beyond the car, she could see the length of the alley illuminated by flickering streetlights. It was a fork in the path, a chance to get away if only she had the guts to seize it. With a sudden burst of courage, Erin glanced toward the shadows of the street beyond. She could see it. A brief flash of light from the exit. It might be her only chance. "Stop right there," the tall man shouted, lunging forward at the first sign of movement. Panicking, Erin sprinted, adrenaline propelling her legs forward. She heard him scream after her, but she couldn't stop to think. She zigzagged away from the alley, dodging trash cans and kicking over debris to slow him down, each step thunderous with her racing heartbeat. Erin didn't stop to look back. She could hear the thud of footsteps hot on her trail, could feel the weight of danger looming behind her. All her instincts screamed at her to push harder as she burst into the street, rushing into traffic, her arms stretched wider than her heartbeat. Then she collided with warmth. Strong arms wrapped around her, pulling her into a tight embrace. Mark's familiar scent overwhelmed her panic, a mixture of sweat and determination. "You did it," he gasped, eyes wide with urgency, but just as Erin barely caught her breath, the tall man's shadow loomed over them, fury etched on his face. "You think you can escape?" he snarled, waving the gun in their direction. Fear turned to anger within her. Erin's instincts flared, and she met Mark's eyes, both understanding the same thing. They couldn't run anymore. They had to fight back. "Mark, we can't let him take us," she whispered fiercely, her heart pounding with newfound resolve. In the car, Mark shouted, yanking her away, but Aaron's heart sank. The way was blocked. They were trapped in an unforgiving cage of chaos, with nowhere left to run. What could she do now? Would they escape his grip or end up in a darker fate? Danger loomed swift and unforgiving. But this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the fight for something deeper. Something worth living for. As Mark faced the threat, Aaron sensed they were on the brink of a breaking point. A choice would need to be made: power or vulnerability, fight or flight. Could they truly stand against the storm that was about to descend upon them? Would courage be enough to break free from their shackles of fear? Panic surged through Aaron as the tall man took a step closer, the gun glinting ominously under the flickering streetlight. Mark tightened his grip on her arm, his gaze darting between Aaron and their tormentor. In that tense moment, they were two corners of the same emotional storm, fear tugging at them both. "Just back off," Mark shouted, his voice shaking but defiant. "You don't have to do this." The man laughed, a cold, chilling sound that echoed in the narrow street. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." He raised the gun, aiming it at Mark. Aaron felt her breath hitch, a lump forming in her throat. It was a horror movie coming to life, and she was trapped in the middle of it. "No," she cried, her voice almost a whisper, filled with a desperate love that erupted uncontrollably. "Please just let us go." The man's smile widened, twisted in calculation. "Let you go? Where's the fun in that?" He stepped even closer, the gun unwavering. "This is just the beginning." Aaron's heart raced, and she could feel the walls of her sanity closing in. They were outnumbered. She could hear more footsteps echoing down the alley, the sound of more men coming closer. The room shrank around them and panic clawed at her throat. "Mark, we have to do something," she urged, adrenaline coursing faster than ever. She glanced around, hoping for a miracle, for anything that could give them a chance. Her eyes landed on the dark shapes of parked cars lining the street. If they could just make it to one, they might be able to escape, might be able to. "Hey!" A voice shouted from the end of the alley. A figure stumbled out, swinging wildly. It was another man, but this one was different. He shouted and flailed, brandishing a baseball bat. Aaron had no idea if he was friend or foe, but the distraction was exactly what they needed. The tall man turned, startled, and his gun lowered momentarily at the unexpected chaos. Every ounce of danger shifted for just an instant, an opening they had to seize. "Now!" Mark shouted, and he pulled Aaron with all his might just as the baseball bat connected with the tall man's wrist. The gun clattered to the ground and time froze for a heartbeat. "Run!" Mark bellowed as the tall man roared in pain and fury, clutching his wrist. With no time to lose, Aaron sprinted, Mark right beside her. They dashed toward the nearest car, hearts pounding in unison, desperation fueling their every step. But as they reached it, Aaron's hand froze on the handle. "Wait! What if it's locked?" "Just try it," Mark snapped, urgency quickly taking over logic. She twisted the handle, praying for luck. The door swung open. They jumped inside and she fumbled for the ignition, hands trembling. "No keys!" she exclaimed, panic rising again like an angry tide. The moment felt ripe with danger, and she could already hear shouts drawing nearer. The man she'd once thought was just a sinister shadow now morphed into a tangible threat, advancing, his footsteps heavy and determined. "Get down!" Mark yelled as he crouched, his body already bracing for potential attack. Aaron followed his lead, her instincts kicking in. Outside, chaos erupted. The man screamed for his cronies as they joined the fray, rushing toward the car. "Think, Aaron. We need a way out." In that instant, clarity struck her. The driver's side window. She could crawl through if necessary, but before she could move, a shadow loomed over their windshield. The tall man had reached them, fear cloaked in rage, the gun still glinting under the streetlights. "Get out!" he shrieked, and in that moment, Aaron knew that life as they knew it was hanging by a thread. Mark's eyes flicked back to her, a silent vow passing between them. They couldn't let fear win. They'd either fight or be swept away. Together, Aaron mouthed, her voice barely audible, but it rang true in the silence that followed. And then she felt it, a flicker of hope in the chaos, an ember igniting within her. What waited outside could mean life or death, but they were about to discover just how fierce their fight could be. Would they find a way to turn the tide? Or would this be the end of their fight for freedom? Erin's heart thundered in her chest as the tall man's shadow loomed darker over the car. She could see the rage etched in his features, the veins pulsing in his temple, the weapon in his hand still ready for destruction. Time felt like syrup, slow and sticky as reality crashed down on her. Mark's breath was hot against her ear, frantic whispers mingling with the fear swirling around them. We've got to do something. Anything. His eyes darted back to the window, the glint of the gun sharpening their decision. She could feel his tension, his desperation threading through her like an electric current. Their lives hinged on the next few seconds. The man outside leaned closer, his face twisted into a snarl. Do you think hiding will save you? You should have run when you had the chance. The words sent a cold shiver through Erin. Panic threatened to overtake her again, but she forced it down. They had to survive. In a sudden flash of instinct, she reached for the glove compartment. It felt heavy, almost like a stone, as dread swirled around her. With trembling hands she flung it open and her heart dropped. A small canister of pepper spray glinted back at her, a thin thread of hope she desperately clung to. "Mark!" she gasped, grabbing it and passing it quickly to him. Mark met her eyes, a silent communication passing between them. He took the canister, a fierce determination igniting in his expression. On three, he whispered, barely catching his breath. "Okay," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. 1, 2. Before they could reach 3, the man outside repeated his threat. "Get out, or I swear you'll regret it." "Now!" Mark shouted, bursting into action. They threw the car doors open at the same time, adrenaline pushing them out into the open air. Mark shot the pepper spray into the man's face just as the acid stench of it wafted through the air. The tall man howled in fury and pain, staggering back. Erin felt the rush of freedom surge within her. "Moves! We can't waste any time," Mark yelled, his instinct to protect leading them into the night. Erin ran as fast as her legs would carry her, unsure of where they were heading, only knowing they had to get away from the danger behind them. The sounds of chaos faded to a distant echo as they bolted down the alleyway, leaving the agonized cries of the man behind. But relief was short-lived. Shadows surged from side streets, figures emerging with malevolent intent. Over there. Erin snapped her head towards a bright bus stop down the street. It flickered like a beacon of hope. They could hide, maybe find a way to escape once the danger passed. "Go," Mark urged, taking the lead. Clarity wrapped around Erin like a lifeline as they sprinted toward the glowing light. Breathless, they reached the shelter of the bus stop. Mark pressed against the metal frame as Erin huddled beside him, both of them trying to catch their breath, trying to make sense of what just happened. Mark scanned the street, eyes sharp. "We can't stay here long. They'll catch on." Just as those words left his mouth, a car screeched to a halt near the alley. It was black and sleek, a predator waiting to pounce. The tinted window slid down, and a man's voice slithered out like smoke. "Get in," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "I can help you." Erin's heart raced. She could sense the danger in the stranger's offer, but salvation hung in the balance. "Mark, what do we do?" But Mark was already shaking his head, gripping her arm tighter. "No, we don't know him." Before they could decide, the tall man's furious shout echoed nearby, galvanizing them into motion. They had to make a choice fast. Everyone had secrets, but who could they trust in this nightmare? With a glance exchanged between them, Erin felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Would safety lie ahead or deliver a new danger? As fear clenched her throat, she sensed a path diverging, one where each choice could lead to darkness or light. And as the tension crested once more, they both knew. Every second mattered. Their next move could mean the difference between escape or capture. They stood there, frozen under the flickering light. The car idled nearby, the engine a low growl in the dimness, while the laughter and shouts of the approaching shadows grew sharper, more distinct. Erin could almost feel the weight of their footsteps, an ominous drumroll before disaster. Mark, she could hardly breathe, her voice a mere whisper. "They're coming." She turned to the sleek car, torn between fear and curiosity. What if he's telling the truth? Mark squeezed her arm, his grip reminding her that they were still together. "We can't trust anyone but ourselves right now. We didn't survive the last encounter to walk into another trap." But even as he spoke, their hiding place felt more like a cage. The shadows converged like a storm. Aaron's pulse quickened. The man from the car leaned out, his smile still wide, but now it seemed almost predatory. Get in. You won't make it if you stay out there, he urged again, his voice smooth as silk, concealing the threads of menace within. Aaron's instincts screamed at her to listen. Every part of her wanted the safety promised by those words. We could at least ask him for help, she pleaded, her gaze darting between Mark and the man. We need a plan. Trust the unknown? No, Mark fired back, tension crackling between them. We already made a plan. We run. The tall man's voice rose with insistent confidence, the shifting shadows drawing nearer. You're wasting time. Do you really want to end up like that fool back there? Reality hit hard. The warning sounded like nails on a chalkboard. Aaron's stomach twisted. They'd seen enough violence tonight. She couldn't shake the image of the man outside, ripped apart by rage. Mark's resolve strengthened her, but uncertainty gnawed at her gut. Suddenly, the shouts grew louder. People started to emerge from the darkness, figures with no faces. Aaron gasped, shoving away the terror threatening to suffocate her. I say we run. She insisted. We'll find another way. Just like earlier. The decision tore at Mark. He looked back at the car, then at the encroaching figures, panic cracking his usual determination. We can't just. What if no other way exists? In that moment the looming shadows halted at the bus stop, just outside the pool of light. Their faces were obscured, but the men's intentions radiated pure malice. Aaron could feel the air thickening between them. Aaron. Mark's tone shifted, urgency spinning through his words. We need to go. The man in the car leaned forward, frustration painting his features. Enough. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice rising. Get in now. Before Aaron could respond, one of the shadows lunged forward, breaking through the pool of light. The man's frame was robust and he raised a weapon. Heart pounding, Aaron could only see the interplay of fear and fury on Mark's face. Time froze. Her body surged with adrenaline, the fight or flight instinct kicking in full force. Mark! She screamed. Instinct clawing at her, she dove for the nearest side of the bus stop, dragging Mark down with her as bullets whizzed overhead. They hit the ground hard, the world spiraling into chaos around them. What do we do? Mark shouted, the noise deafening, echoing off the walls of the alley. The man in the car backed away, his grin replaced by a frantic expression. Run! The situation spiraled. They were trapped from every angle. Aaron felt her chest tightening, but the sight of Mark's resolute determination renewed her resolve. We have to make a break for it. In a flash, they were on their feet again, sprinting towards the street as if the dark menace on their heels would swallow them whole. But just as they neared the road, Aaron felt a sharp tug on her heart. Glancing back, she saw the stranger from the car darting in their direction, the shadows closing in behind him. Aaron, come on! Mark yelled, and she turned, propelled forward by fear, adrenaline pushing them towards what may well be their last chance at escape. And as they ran, Aaron couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead, if they were really leaving danger behind or inviting new horrors into their path. Would they find an ally? Or would the shadows turn darker still? Time was slipping like sand between their fingers, and with every second the trap closed tighter. They bolted into the street, the cold air slapping against their faces like a cruel reminder of reality. Aaron's breath was ragged, her heart pounding relentlessly in her chest. The only thing louder than the chaos behind them was the sound of her own heartbeat, a wild drum signaling that time was running out. Keep going, Mark urged, grabbing Aaron's hand and pulling her along. The night was a blur of swirling shadows and blinding streetlights, a sickening haze that made her stomach turn. Their footsteps blurred with the thump of her pulse, a chaotic rhythm beaten by fear. Aaron risked a glance over her shoulder. The man from the car was nearly upon them, desperation fueling his speed. He was right behind the shadows, his face twisted with something that looked like anger or panic or both. Hurry! He shouted, his voice barely cutting through the noise of their escape. Why are we running to him? Mark shot back, his breath hitching with each stride. He could just be leading us into a trap. Aaron couldn't argue. The uncertainty hung over them like a thick fog. Yet, the other figures loomed large and menacing behind them, shadows with malevolent intent. We need to trust someone, Mark. she gasped, pushing her legs to go faster as they thundered towards freedom. Erin spotted a narrow alleyway just ahead. There. She pointed. We can lose them in there. Without waiting for Mark's response, she yanked him toward the alley, hoping it would be a sanctuary rather than a dead end. They entered the alley, the walls closing in around them, swallowing the noise of the street, and yet amplifying their fear. The darkness seemed almost alive, clinging to the edges of her vision. Erin could feel something heavy, a sensation that crept up her spine, whispering that danger was still lurking, just waiting. Stay quiet, Mark whispered, pressing her against the damp brick. They listened. The ominous sounds of footsteps echoed toward them. Erin closed her eyes for a brief moment, her mind racing. They were standing with their backs against the wall, hearts pounding in unison, a brief, shared solitude amidst the chaos. Suddenly, the shadows spilled into the alley, voices hoarse with underlying rage. Split up. One of them barked. The sound of shuffling footsteps made Erin's blood freeze. No, Mark hissed, grabbing her arm tighter. We can't get separated. It's too risky. But as the figures advanced with deadly intent, it became painfully clear. There was no safe path out of this. Just then, the man from the car appeared at the entrance, looming like a dark night. This way, he shouted, and for a split second, his anxiety gave way to determination. He waved them forward, beckoning with an urgency that seemed genuine. Look, we don't have time for this. Erin's instinct screamed at her to run, but they had no choice. Behind them the footsteps drew nearer, and fear engulfed them like a thick smoke. Mark, she pleaded, her voice trembling. What do we do? Trust him, Mark whispered back, conflicting emotions crossing his face as he weighed their options. In a heartbeat they sprinted toward the man, each step a gamble with their lives, a choice to leap from one danger to another. As they barreled past him into the night's shadows, the man turned and led them deeper into the dark alley. But Erin couldn't shake the dread that clung to her. Was he really their savior, or would he betray them when it mattered most? With every twist and turn, the alley twisted into unfamiliar territory. It felt like a labyrinth where the echoes of their pursuers blended with her growing unease. What had they walked into? And now in the dark, mismatched alliances were their only hope. Finally, they stopped. Erin leaned against a cold, slick wall, panting, yet straining to hear the approaching danger. Where are we? She asked, desperation coating her voice. The man glanced around, anxiety flashing across his face. A safe house for now. But we must hurry. They won't stop forever. As they waited, the night deepened, and Erin's chest tightened harder than before. Secrets bubbled beneath the surface, a web of betrayal starting to weave around them, tightening with every breath. Did they know who they were really running from and who they were really running to? And as the tension spiraled, shadows danced in the corners of her mind, whispering questions that might just unravel them all. Erin's breath came in sharp gasps as they stood in the crumbling safe house. Time felt borrowed, stretched thin between their desperation and the threat still lurking just beyond the shadows. Mark shifted, anxiety etched in every line of his face, as the stranger paced the small room, navigating the edges of fear and uncertainty. We can't stay here long. It won't be safe for much longer, the mysterious man said, glancing over his shoulder as if waiting for danger to burst through the door. Who are you? Erin's voice trembled, every word wrapping around her throat. Why should we trust you? You don't have much of a choice, he replied, the steely edge in his voice giving her pause. They're out for blood. Now it seems they want yours too. Mark stepped forward, a protective wall of defiance. You led us into this. What's your deal? Why help us? The words came out like accusations, each laced with tension. The man looked between them, his expression a mix of urgency and fear. Because I'm not your enemy. I can help you stop this. But you have to trust me. He paused and took a deep breath, the weight of his intentions heavy. My name's Carter. I used to work with Mark before everything fell apart. What does that mean? Erin asked, heart racing as fragments of a puzzle danced in her mind. Mark stiffened. I had no idea you were still alive. What do you mean? Erin interrupted, feeling the walls close in further. Carter turned, hands clenched at his sides as he explained in a rush. After you left, Mark got pulled into a mess way deeper than I can explain. I was trying to protect him and you. Erin's heart beat faster. Protect us from what? The people hunting him, they're ruthless. They don't just want power. They want vengeance. The night he almost drowned, they were after him. He knew too much. Erin processed the words, her mind racing back to the chaos of Mark being swept away by the waves. It was never just a random night. So you want to save him now? I want to save both of you, Carter replied, a flicker of sincerity lighting his eyes. But we have to move. They know where we are. Before Mark could argue, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the alley, sending shivers down their spines. They're here. Mark's gaze hardened. What do we do? Erin asked, her chest tightening. We fight. Mark's voice was low yet intense, bursting with a fierce protective spirit that drew Erin closer to him. Carter held up a slip of paper, crumpled and stained. Their essay back exit. I can get you both to safety, but you have to trust me now. With a last look exchanged, Erin found her courage. They raced through the narrow hall, her heart hammering with every step, adrenaline buzzing in her veins. Past peeling wallpaper and concealed doors, it felt like a scene out of a movie, a desperate flight from impending doom. Bursting into an alley behind the building, the moonlight felt like a cruel spotlight under which their fates played out. Erin turned back momentarily, finding Mark's worried eyes searching hers. Stay close, he urged with a nod, and together they pushed down the alley's length, hearts drumming with fear and resolve. Carter led them into the depths of an old parking garage, the concrete walls framing their exit. This way. Follow me. But just as they rounded the corner, the distant sound of shouting echoed through the expanse, a cacophony of nearing danger. The shadows ahead shifted, and pulses surged as they faced the unknown. Mark tightened his grip on Erin's hand, a fierce moment of solidarity igniting between them. We'll get through this, he promised. Together, Erin affirmed, squeezing his hand as if anchoring herself to the moment. Suddenly, a barrage of footsteps thundered toward them, silhouetted figures pouring in from the main entrance, ominous and unwavering in their pursuit. Go! Hide behind those cars! Carter shouted. They scrambled behind a pair of old vehicles, breathless and feeling the walls of danger threatening to close in. Erin wished for clarity as the tension swelled. Hiding was all they could do, but doubt nipped at her heels. Whispers flooded the air. The harsh reality struck hard. They would either be found or have to fight their way out through the chaos. Danger dripped from the ceiling like the sweat pooling on her brow. Get ready, Mark whispered, staring at the closest figure's dark form, their intentions as murky as the shadows surrounding them. Carter leaned closer. When I say go, make a run for it. We can't let them box us in. Erin held her breath, her pulse knocking like the drums of war. This was it. They traded glances, burning promises of survival sparking between them. Now! Carter shouted suddenly, bursting from his hiding place and sprinting toward the nearest exit. Erin and Mark followed, legs pumping, hearts racing as a low growl reverberated through the garage. As lights flared up in the distance, footsteps fell heavy behind them, a testament to chaos and hot pursuit. Faster! Mark screamed, and they pushed forward, the flickering lights painting their panic in brilliant strokes. Just as hope flickered on the horizon, Erin felt a chilling breath of uncertainty. Mark gripped her hand tighter as they plunged forward into the unknown. This fight was theirs, every step a testament to the choice they had made. Freedom lay ahead, vibrant and bright. The shadows could not consume them, not today. And as they barreled through the last door, bursting into the open air, Erin knew they were more than survivors. They were fighters, resilient, determined, and ready to carve their path through the darkness. And in that moment, as dawn began to break, hope ignited a fire within. The fight was not over, but it had marked a new beginning. Together they would face whatever came next, so don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And most importantly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, be part of the journey.